Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I am well.
Good. So my name is Robin, and I own Robin's Healing for anyone that doesn't know that already. So I am a Reiki master, a reflexologist. I have a psychology background, and I'm currently doing online and phone healing and coaching sessions. So I'm helping anyone that has blocks, people who are looking to increase their revenue, and people who are um, just struggling emotionally too. Maybe it's relationship or just lack of self-love or lack of time for themselves. There's just any way that they can increase their energy levels, etc. So that's enough about me. So who are you?
Hi, my name is Nicole.
Well,
It's actually, Robin, it was interesting for the timing of you asking me to do this interview because, as I shared with you, I'm in the process of rebranding.
mhm.
Um, right now, I'm Nicole Clarke. I early on when I first started, I branded myself under the name of Indigo Intuitive Arts, but my partner and I we're rebranding. So the name Kindred is coming up a lot, Kindred Collective.
Ooh,
Robin and I, we met how many years ago now? And when we did our Reiki training,
maybe 7.
yeah, 6 or 7 years ago. Um, it's interesting where I find myself in this place where when somebody would ask me what is it that I do, I would name all of the modalities that I have in my toolbox. But recently that's really shifted for me, and it kind of depends on the audience when I'm asked that question. But I think, like the spine, the bones of what I do is I hold space for people to become the observer of their own life. From a compassionate lens of a heart-based way. It's my belief that each individual is their own best resource. And when we're living a heart-centered life, we can really step into that space. So when people come and see me, they're really heightened in fear. They're feeling stuck. They might be feeling anxious. They might be feeling afraid. They might be grieving. They might be experiencing um, any type of loss, not just a physical one. And it could really be from a number of different life happenings or experiences. It could be a physical loss of a loved one. It could be the end of a relationship. They're in some sort of fork in the road, some level of transition where they have to make a big decision. And they're hiding. And really, it's only ever about keeping yourself safe. And they're exhausted, and they may feel stuck, and they're really judging themselves for being where they are, and a lot of the time they're not even aware of it. So together, when people come and see me, I hold space for them to observe um, their pain story. Their story manifested from their mind becomes a clue to where we would go next to get them to shift from that fear-based strategy belief system of the mind with an agenda, to that heart-centered place so that they can step into their own best resource. I'm going to explain a little bit more concrete how that looks in a moment. But what I love about the work that I do is what I've learned, and how my own heart-based practices have evolved over the years, is that somebody's pain story is exactly mine. From a consciousness-based perspective, there is no separation between me and anything sitting right in front of me in my external environment. So people can feel, it's an act of courage, and people can feel really vulnerable when they're in that place and space where they're feeling afraid and stuck and anxious, to be seen. And so part of that emotional safety piece is for them to hold in their awareness the fact that whatever they're experiencing somewhere in my life is an aspect of that as well. So we actually manifested each other at the perfect time to do this work, to work this out together, to move through the experience that they're having, to shift their life to that higher order, heart-based, centered place. Um, yeah, does that make?
I have a
Does that
question.
make sense?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that
sure.
all makes sense. Couple things that kind of stood out to me was like emotional energy. So, like,
Mhm.
because I can tell that you even feel emotional, like talking about that stuff.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah,
makes me kind of want to cry in a good way. Like, it's all for you. Like,
yeah.
so would you say that this is because this isn't what you do full time, right?
It is not. I'm actually a social service provider full time at a family resource center in my community, and I primarily hold space for women who are experiencing some level of transition in their life, and trauma is usually at the root.
Right. So
Yeah,
you
and I
take what you learn from your work and still kind of bring that over to your healing services.
oh, 100%. You know, I've been a social service provider for 2 decades.
Mhm.
Um, and I've worked with women, I've worked with youth, and I've worked with adult men. And so, you know, 2 decades of active listening, resource navigation, advocacy, and holding space for people's mental, emotional, spiritual, and social health is definitely a strong backbone in my practice, in my energy medicine. Yeah.
Okay, another question, because you said
Hmm.
do you say you teach people how to be the observer?
Well, I hold space for that to unfold.
Okay, and how do you do that?
I love that question. Yeah. So this is where, you know, early on when I said that I once upon a time, when asked what I do, would have listed all of my modalities. And I've given you a snapshot of what I believe that I do, and how I do it, with what you just asked, is a number of practices. So Reiki, which you would be familiar with, and for those that aren't, you know, in short, my perception of it is that Reiki to me is an energy based medicine. You know, it works on a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level. It is all about universal love. It's so gentle, and it's such a peaceful, loving practice. So, you know, it's a good tool to have to welcome people into that space where they can just show up exactly as they are. And part of my Reiki practice is that I'm also an intuitive. And primarily it comes to me by way of claircognizance. So it's just an inner knowing. Another tool that I have is, in addition to my intuitive reflection, Reiki, I've also spoke about my social service practice. And primarily right now, the modality that I'm most drawn to is called bodytalk. It's not very well known, um, but it actually is. It's in 50 different countries all across the world. It's an international based system. It's backed with a strong matrix of support and practitioners. And, you know, if you would ask me what body talk is 10 different times, I would probably be able to give you 10 different aspects of what it is. But in short, it's what we call a consciousness based holistic energy medicine. And really, it's based on the belief that every single solitary cell in our body is communicating with each other. And from that consciousness lens, all aspects of our body mind, internally and externally, are communicating and showing up as clues. And when there is dis-ease in the body mind, either spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically, it just means that there's stagnation. Health is movement in all aspects of life. And when there's stuckedness based on fear-based beliefs from the mind being projected into all of those planes, like spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, there's stagnation. So things get gunked up and things don't circulate and move and communicate to that higher order. It doesn't allow for our innate wisdom. You know, there's a higher order intelligence to consciousness and within our body mind. And when that's not moving, we can't access that. So body talk is like the liquid Drano to
Yeah,
our body mind. Yeah.
the stagnation part is really like coming up for me because I think that's the majority of people why they end up with health issues is because
Mhm.
sometimes they're scared to make a change, right? Like
Yeah.
so they
Oh,
maintain the same patterns.
100%.
They actually get sick that they realize that they have to do something. So
Yeah.
so is body talk like a preventative measure from sickness or can it actually heal sickness? Well,
That's an interesting question. And if you were to ask, a practitioner, they may, different ones, they may give you different answers. Um, I don't really think that that's like, I would come at it from either one of those angles. Um, Body talk it's an energy based practice that allows someone to come into a space where a practitioner is an observer of what is happening in their body mind. And then that person experiencing body talk is responsible for their own innate healing. So I would say like a preventative measure and a healing measure is coming from a place of what we would call, the languaging we would use from a consciousness based lens, is that's an agenda. So we're trying to get something done or move away from something, when really a heart based practice is simply allowing you to have an experience and move yourself through it um, with love.
I like that. So I like the energy of moving energy, because from the stuff that I've done, like pretty much everything I do is
Hmm.
essentially just shifting energy. So
Yeah.
physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, all
Yeah.
we're doing is just we're moving the energy, like you said, because there's stuck or stagnant energy. And
Yeah.
essentially that's what makes you healthy in general, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're not, if there isn't flow in an energy chakra or something, then it creates illness in your entire body, basically.
You got it. I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's really about, body talk is really about embracing exactly where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And through a series of techniques and protocol, we look at what's a priority, like it's revealed. We observe what is we call a priority, and that's not from a 911 perspective. That's actually what is most willing and ready and flexible to shift in the body mind. It's ready. Your outdated strategies aren't working. You're stuck in that fear-based loop, and another way, infinite possibility, wants to come in.
Okay, question. So, does someone come to you with anything specific and they're like, okay, I want to focus on like my cancer per se? Or
Mm-hmm.
do they come to you and they're like, all right, I'm here for whatever comes through, just let's work on something? Do you find more people are coming in with problems specifically and then you work on that one continuously? Or it's just like they come in and it ends up being something completely different than what they thought it was?
Yeah, I love that question. As you can appreciate and probably experience yourself, people don't come to me when they're feeling great. So
That's why
they're,
I'm asking, yeah, because
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
there are some people that do it that are in the health and
yeah,
wellness industry that do
yeah,
this as maintenance. So I just want to throw that out
sure.
there, because it's not, you don't wait until there's a reason. You can
Right.
do this at any time and you're going to get benefits from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I do have people that just come for what they might call an experience of self care, but often I will have people, and I seem to manifest quite a bit of people that are going through a period in their life where they're transitioning from one stage to another or from one place to another, and they're very, very afraid. They have pretty big decisions to make and they know what to do. They just can't seem to bring themselves, give themselves permission to become the center of their own life,
Mm-hmm.
and put themselves at the forefront, to make those decisions. They're usually people who are very concerned about the well-being of other people at their own expense.
Okay.
This is often what I see. Yeah.
So,
And to your point of, do the modalities that I do take care of that? Um, we never really know, because what is out on the surface is not necessarily what's being asked to be seen. It's a clue to explore deeper. And my modalities are very gentle. It's never about a deep, deep, dark dive to narrate your story for hours and hours. My practices are very gentle, yet very powerful.
I love it. So
Hmm.
you said you manifested certain types of people, correct?
Hmm.
So, so you said, and they seem to have a lot of fear.
Yeah.
They're going through transition, therefore you use the word stuck a lot. So
Yeah.
how would you define a stuck person, just to identify for people that are watching that don't know that they're stuck?
Mm.
Because a lot of times people are in survival mode and they think everything's fine when it's not. So maybe we could identify with more of what a stuck person
Yeah.
Act
I
like, or
Yeah, I love that question. I think that there's probably many ways that we could define a stuck person, but I think I could speak to some commonalities from my own personal experience,
Mhm.
as well as for the people who I hold space for. And I think the stuck comes back to that concept of stagnation, that things aren't flowing and things aren't moving. Well, how would that look like? I think it's about those repetitive patterns. We keep trying those. Fear will contract our world and our life experience because it has to. When we feel afraid and out of control, we need to make things really small and only focus on what's right in front of us in only one way. We won't trust any other way. The mind will always ever interpret change as something catastrophic and dangerous.
Mhm.
The mind will never believe that it could actually be better than we ever thought. So I think when people are feeling stuck, they may feel a number of different things. And the body mind will give us clues. And I'm not saying this is exclusive, but it could show itself as pain in the body, in the physical body. It could show itself as physical illness or dis-ease. It could show itself in the emotional body. There may be a lot of fear, um, anxiety, low mood. The pendulum could swing the other way, and it could be like overreaction, busyness, avoidance, telling their story over and over and over again. Those of us who are stuck really like to seek out an ally that will just affirm and validate our feelings.
Mhm.
When we're constantly looking for someone to say, yes, oh, yes, I know, me too. Yep, absolutely. You're right. They were wrong. When you're telling your story over and over again and you're simply acting out the same strategies and there's no movement, there's no change, it's going to show itself in one way or the other. So if you move it over there, it's just going to pop up over there.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I got chills when you kind of use the energy around avoidance, people who are,
Mhm.
and you use the word hiding too. So
Yeah.
so it feels like some of these people, like, so when you have people that are avoidant, they have avoidant tendencies, or like maybe over obsessive and things like that, over controlling. Are these your people that are getting help, or are these the people, like you said, like, because you kind of talked about being comforted too, like some people
Mhm.
won't keep hanging out with people that like allow them to stay in that rut,
Mhm.
like actually exposing themselves to like situations that are getting out of their comfort zone, or where they
Mhm.
actually have to deal with it. So would you say that these people that are like avoidance types or controlling types are getting help?
Through the modalities that I practice.
Yeah, like from what you see, do you see those people typically actually getting help, or do you see those people not wanting to admit that they're wrong, or they keep hanging out in their ego, or like you said, keep staying in that comfort zone? Or are you seeing a lot of people that are like in 2020 finally like having their breakthrough where they're like, okay, this isn't serving me anymore? Like, are you finding you're seeing more people, even if it is online, like waking up, I guess, more to the fact that they can't hang out in their comfort zone anymore because COVID's not letting them?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a whole other conversation we could have around what COVID is showing us. You know, I do, and I see people, the fear-based consciousness on this planet today, it's ripe.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have a brain, we have fear. And I think the discerning factor there for when people come and see me is that we begin to work it out together, that they're moving into that conscious space where they can really take a look at their life and in a loving, gentle way, really begin to understand that there is no need to judge themselves for being afraid, for being stuck, for hiding. All of those strategies were brilliant at some point in their life to keep them safe, probably primarily rooted in their childhood. And we just got really good at evolving those strategies as an adult. So in my work, there's never any reason to judge where you are at. You're there because it worked for as long as it did. And usually, when people come and see me, they're open to having another way come through.
Awesome. So you don't have clients where you're feeling like you need to get them out of their comfort zone, or they're already like they're ready to do that? Like, do you find like if you have avoidant tendencies, like as a client, if you're that type of person, do you find like sometimes people will come in and be like, okay, I'm ready, but then when it really comes down to it, like they're still applying that avoidance mechanism?
At times, but again, it would only be a strategy because they're scared, or that they're just, the mind is just telling them that what they're about to do is very unfamiliar,
Yeah.
and that it's not safe. And I just want to say that if ever I have someone in front of me who is really scared or avoiding something, that is a clue to look within my own self, that where in my life am I already holding that belief and somewhere acting that out, and that there's no need for me to judge my own self with respect to that.
But so what do you do, I guess, because when you have those avoidant personalities, like they have strong coping mechanisms, like they're high anxiety, right? Because I find for myself, when I have clients that are naturally anxious,
Mm-hmm.
they have a really hard time with their nervous system. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like,
Yeah.
because I use sound bowls and I
Okay.
use tinctures and crystals and like all these things because I know
I'm
that
because I'm excited to give you my answer.
they're they're like they can't get calm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So my go-to, I mean, the whole body talk system is absolutely incredible and has a number of techniques that could come up as a priority to implement. But the one universal go-to that I use is a tapping technique called cortises. And that is very, very different. I'm also trained in a couple of levels of emotional freedom technique that is very different from this tapping. Cortises, it might take me a minute to do one routine of tapping, and it will calm the brain. The cortises works with your whole brain health, because whatever is happening in the brain is happening in the body. So if you balance your and calm your brain, um, and you are calming and balancing your whole innate wisdom. Every time you do that technique, you are tapping into your own divine innate wisdom. And it works with tapping on the head, which is about waking up the brain, that changes are coming. Then it works to tap on the heart space, which is it's our soul's blueprint. Like that's where our wisdom is stored. So it's like hitting the save button on your computer to save those changes. And then you tap on your enteric brain, your navel. The intestines are designed with microbiome to mulch up emotional and mental waste, to literally let it go.
Wow.
So it works with the three brains in our body.
So is that something like you can quickly just like, is it, because I just started learning EFT in my
Mhm.
Akashic Records program. We're learning all different
Okay.
modalities each week. So
Yeah,
yeah, just to, because it sounds really cool.
it is super cool. Yeah, and it takes under a minute to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you
Yep.
want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the breath is super important. I just want to say that when we do this technique, we really have to have exaggerated inhales and exhales. Our breath is our flashlight in our body mind. So it will scan frequencies and highlight where priority healing can shift. So nice deep inhales and nice deep exhales when we do this work. So we want to landmark the brain with one hand. And when we landmark the brain, we want to make sure our fingers are sealed so that there's no gaps, because we want to really mark all of the brain. So we want to begin at our occiput, where the base of the skull meets the neck. And then we have a tapping hand. We just want to make sure that we're getting the left and right hemisphere of the brain. So we're going to take a nice big inhale. Exhale to your heart, your sternum.
That already feels good.
I know. Take a breath in. And then you tap on your navel on your exhale. Really good. So then you just want to climb the ladder, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use the same hand and shift up, or you can change hands. And then we just go back to the inhale.
And we're not saying anything, we're just breathing.
Exhale. Yeah, we don't need to. Like, we're tapping into very intelligent, energetic systems here.
So is this grounding us?
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like a bringing us into
Tap on your navel.
meditation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just do core disease because it feels really good.
Yep.
And then you just want to climb the ladder to the next position in your head. And then you just tap and breathe. Inhale.
Oh, I feel like it's like raising my energy.
Yeah. And then you exhale on your heart. And the rhythm of your breath can be fluid. Just for teaching purposes, I'm just guiding it.
It's consciousness too, like you were saying, like conscious awareness too of your body and of your breath.
Yeah.
And like it's getting you to concentrate on something other than your problems.
Yeah.
And like the coping mechanisms.
Yeah, you just keep landmark. Like we are consciousness. Like we are source. We are the universe, right? And the mind we have to have compassion for the mind. It's only trying to keep us safe. It's working really hard. Mm-hmm. So this technique will actually calm the mind. And then the mind can lean into the heart. The mind is meant to be in service to the heart.
Amazing.
Our body mind knows exactly what to do. And then we want to keep going and just landmark our forehead.
So it's like you start from the back and start to almost do a bit of a body scan?
Yeah, well, you're just marking all parts of the brain. So we're working with like the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, the cortex.
And I think you could probably sneak some affirmations in here.
Well, there's really no need.
Okay.
Tap on your navel. There's really no need because this is really tapping into our innate wisdom, right? Like that infinite source that knows exactly what to do.
And would you say that you can get creative inspiration during this as well? Like, does it wake up the third eye to ideas and visions? And
possibly, like if that's a priority, and then you just want to just continue to tap there, and that if that's a priority for you, then that will do just that.
Okay,
there's really no agenda here.
So it's really just bringing you into the present.
Yeah.
And it's shifting, like you said, all that stuff that we were saying, any stagnant energy, anything, any block, just bringing you back into that calming and relaxing state. Yeah. So is this something you'll add in just to a regular session, or like is it a tool you teach, or is it just come in depending if somebody's really on that anxious side?
You know what? It's all free. I'm also a yoga instructor, and sometimes I'll incorporate it in the beginning of a practice. Yeah. I do body talk. Core disease is part of the body talk system, and it's a system called Body Talk Access that has 5 techniques to work and support the body mind. I'll offer core disease and teach core disease to my clients when they come and see me, and if they continue to practice core disease. If you think about what core disease does, is it taps into our innate wisdom. It's calming. It balances the body, mind, and the brain. When they come to see me, we can go deeper because that fear is not in the way.
I feel like I'm vibrating now. Mm-hmm. Like it actually felt like it grounded me, but then it also energized me.
Yeah, I love core disease. It's almost like, I imagine it's what a cat in the hot sun feels like.
Yeah, it definitely, I would say it releases something, right? It feels almost like an endorphin that you
have. Your infinite possibility. Yeah. your heart-based practices. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if did you have anything else you wanted to share? Because I know you had already kind of had some things that you wanted to maybe share about you.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about, how I hold space and what I hold space for. I shared about body talk and my intuition and my Reiki and my service as a social service provider. Also a yoga instructor. I would say that, in my professional development over the years, I have extensive training and experience holding space for people who are moving through the experience of trauma. And I have done that professionally. I've also navigated my own personal journey with that. I'm often reflected around the ability for me to create emotional safety for people. I do recognize that it is this very vulnerable space for them to enter. And I don't take that lightly. I think that that's a privilege and one I'm grateful for. I teach at Halifax Yoga in Halifax. It's a studio on Purcell's Cove Road. I work in the community I live in Spryfield, and I do see clients out of my home, and I can also outsource calls to their home as well. If anybody is interested in contacting me, they can get me through email at Nicole Clarke, Clarke with an E, the number 9 at gmail.com, or they can text or call me at 902-430-9615.
Perfect. So when I go to share this, I'm gonna like put your info there too, so people.
Okay, yeah, and I also want to say, like, this work doesn't have to be done in person. Often my clients will receive over the phone or virtually, or even in their absence. I can do a session for someone and audio record it and send them their findings. And it's because they're all energy-based practices, they don't really need to be right in front of me.
I like that. So I do find like you're kind of soothing to that, like with your teachings, it's like you don't need to do all that. It's like, yeah, you're right. Why am I adding all this stuff when it's just that simple, right?
Yeah.
I like that you make everything, especially from a teaching perspective, because you are a teacher too. You kind of simplify it for people instead of like, I find a lot of teachers will add so much because they want to give as much as they can, but often as a student we become so overwhelmed. And as you said, if somebody is doing Reiki training or whatever it is, they might already have their own trauma too, so that not only are they already dealing with their own stuff, and that's why they want to learn, but then they become overwhelmed when they already have like a full kind of cup going on, right?
Yeah.
So I like that you have that like simplistic mentality, like just breath work or just like really easy stuff, but it's like so powerful.
Yeah, it's been a journey, right? In the evolution of a space holder, and I'm devoted to the practices where I do my work as well. And if not, it's going to, it'll show itself.
Okay, well, you just out of curiosity, because you've been doing yoga for how long?
I have been practicing yoga for about a decade, and I've been teaching it. I believe I just came across my 7th year of teaching.
Okay. Yeah. So from a trauma perspective, because you kind of touched on that a little bit, that you've had your own, like, had your own traumatic experiences and have like kind of dealt with that and that sort of thing. But it sounds like you're still like, as you're working through your own stuff, right? Like you're kind of learning through your experiences. But how has yoga specifically, because I'm just starting to teach yoga, and I'm also looking to like promote that more of like the benefits of yoga. So from a trauma perspective, how has yoga helped you?
Yeah. Speaking from my own personal experience, I really delved deep into yoga at a major transition in my life, with a relationship ending and my family structure shifting. And I was also having an experience with mental illness. I was quite sick, actually. It was over 12 years ago now. But what yoga really did for me, do you know what? Looking back, like I was living life. I don't even think I was aware that I had a physical body.
That's normal for a lot of people. So you're
honestly, yeah, it really wasn't. I was largely in a disassociated state, and it wasn't safe for me to be in my body. And it wasn't safe for me to show up for myself because I was absolutely terrified what might happen. And what yoga did for me, a couple of things come to mind. From a physical perspective, it really got me in my body. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but just for the first time in my life, sitting still in a safe space, knowing that I was breathing, it sounds so simple, but it was so powerful. And yoga created a sense of community within myself. And it actually created a sense of community for me, quite literally. There are people in the Halifax yoga community that have become my family. And I have grown exponential in that community doing this work as a space holder, but also evolving my own practices and my own growth and my own learning. Simple movement with my breath and my body. And yoga, the physical aspect of yoga is one of it. And, there's a spiritual component to this practice. And it awakened something that was already existing within me that wanted to come through. And I got the brick in the head. And
But you're still
and
you're still teaching. So after,
oh,
after
I God willing, I hope I'm teaching to the day I transition off of this planet. I'm quite passionate about yoga. I absolutely love teaching it. It's a calling for me. There's no question. It's such a powerful, powerful practice. It's medicine on every level.
I love that. So it's funny because when you said the word community, I wrote community down at the exact same time.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
because I was just picking up on that. So it's funny because yoga is a community, right? Like it's a group of people holding space for each other, which is great. But when it comes to your own judgment, right? Because we talked about trauma and sickness. When it comes to judging yourself, right? On this earth, how do you handle, like I was talking about positive affirmations, or if it is like what's that called, core tapping,
Core disease.
I have to write that one down too. Like what are some of your tools that you like that help you with judgment? Because we, like you said, we're all on earth, we all have an ego. So what are some things that you would also recommend based on things you've done in the past that you've had success with? Because everybody tends to be struggling with it right now.
I get it. I have had, my tool is called Conscious Living Investigation. And it is a practice and a process. And it has completely changed my life, and the way that I see life. Conscious Living Investigation is showthehellup.com is the website if people are interested in learning about it. Erica D'Souza, also from Spring Bodytalk, is a teacher of this modality. And I've learned from both people in both of those businesses. And really, and I hope I do it justice in explaining it, as I'm still very much a student of it. But Conscious Living Investigation is a technique that shifts, like the mind is very blamey and it'll feel very much like a victim and like everything is happening to me. So I now have to right a wrong, or I need to move something, or I got to get rid of something or bring something in. It's all fear-based, driven by agenda. So Conscious Living Investigation actually shifts that perspective, that everything in our internal and external environment is an aspect of ourselves, and it's showing up for ourselves as a clue. How we are really holding a conditioned belief and judgment about something. And the only thing that we need to do is just simply observe that and love that aspect of ourself, our little kid self that developed that belief and perfected that strategy. We don't need to judge. There's never a need to judge from the heart. The heart will never judge. The heart just simply wants us to move through an experience.
Okay, so would you say the more spiritual you are, and I don't like to say the words, I'm spiritual, you're not as spiritual, like not getting into that, but would you say like the more you tap into some form of faith or spirituality, the more likely you are to start identifying with that judgment?
Once upon a time, I might say yes, but I'm going to say no. It's about consciousness. It's about being consciously aware that everything is an aspect of me and it's showing up as a clue for me. It's right in my face because because the judgment about it is ready to be absolved. And maybe this will help land the plane what I'm trying to say. Prior to Conscious Living Investigation, I would seek every and all things out to get an outcome. So to grow my spirituality, to lose weight, to not be afraid, to make sure I'm conscious, to make sure I'm spiritual, to do. Even going to my yoga mat was a fear-based agenda. Because if I didn't hit my yoga mat, I might get mentally ill again, or I might do this, or I might do that. looking at life from a consciousness-based lens just simply allows me to show up exactly as I am. No need to judge anything. Just love myself through the experience and just be open to whatever comes my way.
So holding space for yourself.
Yes, as your own best resource. To shift you, when we do that work, we shift ourselves into the center of our own life. When we are not living from the center of our own life, there is only one thing that will happen, and that is chaos.
I love that.
Mhm.
Well, I can't wait to share this with the world.
Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome, and I hope you do too. I hope you get it out on your platform as well, so more people can see your light because it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be a yes.
All right. So if you want to do this again at some point, we have more to talk about. Let's do it.
Okay, sounds good.
Love you lots.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.